Hey, good afternoon and welcome to the Jena Colbourne Show. So happy to have you in on the show, whether you're watching live or you're watching the rerun a little later on today, whatever the case may be. So happy you're here. Make sure you guys hit share and join our group on Facebook, the Jena Colbourne Show. We have lots of post-show discussion, lots of great memes are shared there. I know you guys love your memes and we just have some great chats. It's a real community. So I hope you can follow me over there as well. Today, I wanted to talk about courage. I think a lot of us are being called on to be more courageous than ever over the past year. And one of my favorite sayings in regards to courage is jump, and you'll find out how fast your wings will unfold. Hasn't that been true about this past year? Something as simple as going to the grocery store had turned into this like heroic moment sometime last year. And for many of us, we were left standing there like, how can we do more? How can we be asked of more? And even as simple as doing what you believe is right is so courageous, and having the courage to voice your own opinion. I do believe over the last year, there's just been so many moments of courage. It's quite breathtaking to really watch it. We've watched while more and more has been asked of women, especially. Now, whether that's, hey, you got to go work from home and homeschool your kids and figure all that out, or maybe some of you ladies quit the workforce so you could homeschool your kids, or even as simple as having to choose your job over homeschooling your kids. It was a situation that many women were faced with over this past year, and I think we had the COVID burden impact women in very different ways, and very ways that I don't think men had the same situations occur to them. So I just want to say to all the ladies out there, whether you took giant leaps or you did something as small as homeschooling your kids or as small as reading to them at night, you rose to the challenge very courageously. Now, the reason I'm thinking about courage is my guest today is 𝗵𝗵 𝗖𝗿, and I just want to say she is someone who embodies the word courageous. 𝗵𝗵 has released this memoir, and that's amazing in itself. To put yourself out there is quite amazing. But she puts herself out there with stories from a small town, and the small town being Bonnyville. She grew up in Bonnyville, and now she's writing about her experiences, not just growing up and perhaps the unconventional lifestyle she had growing up and the small town politics behind that, but she's also talking about a unique job, a unique industry that she went into as an adult entertainer. And I think being able to write that and share her story is so incredibly courageous, but it also goes such a long way to help other people, and specifically women, share their stories. The more and more women who step forth and share their stories, the more and more healing we will see done. So we're going to be talking with the author today. So excited about that. We're going to be talking about her book, her journey as an author, and she's been gaining a lot of recognition and a lot of awards as of late. So we're going to be chatting about that. And I have a new sponsor. So really excited to introduce you guys to Project Gazelle. This is just an amazing group, and it's a really cool community, if you will, and it's built to help female entrepreneurs. So if you're thinking about starting a business, you have a business, or if you're like 50% ownership of a business, it just has to be like 50% female or 100%, however you rock it. Project Gazelle is here to help you. They help through financing, networking, they have mentorships, they have group events when it's permitted, and it's just this really cool organization. So we're going to be talking about one of their latest initiatives. It's called Marketplace, and it's like an online store for female entrepreneurs. We'll tell you how that can enhance your business, and how maybe if you already have an online store, you can gain some more recognition with that online store, or perhaps if you're not already online, they can help you get online quick and painlessly. So that's really cool. That's coming up in our tips, tricks, and trends segment. Wendy from Project Gazelle will be on just a little later on. And today's business spotlight, so excited to have her in studio. Kim Deshane is here. Inner Power Leadership is what she teaches, and I'm so excited to have Kim in studio. I haven't had many opportunities yet to talk with Kim and learn more about her business, so this is all new to me too. So I am thrilled to have Kim Deshane in studio today. Thrilled to have Wendy with Project Gazelle, and of course 𝗏𝗲 𝗖𝗍𝗂𝗏 is here with her new book, The Butcher Shop Girl, which, by the way, has just been released as an audiobook. So we are actually giving away copies of the audiobook as well as copies of the physical book. That's all to come on the Jena Colbourne Show. We'll be right back.
𝗏𝗲 Pharmacy is proud to be celebrating 50 years in the community of Bonnyville. And we're even more proud to help grow the community through our Local Supporting Local initiative. Come into 𝗏𝗲's and you'll find a vast selection of local products made right here in the Lakeland region. We have unique gifts and specialty items along with everything you'd expect to find at your local pharmacy. At 𝗏𝗲's, you'll get that small town service with a smile. Compassionate local pharmacists who are dedicated to the community's health and wellness. 𝗏𝗲 Pharmacy offers the Simple program, a brand which synchronizes your medications with unique packaging designed to make your life and your medication simple. While you're shopping, be sure to grab a specialty coffee from our 1929 coffee bar, stocked full with drinks, soups, sandwiches, and more. Celebrate 50 years with 𝗏𝗲's, local supporting local.
Welcome back to the Jena Colbourne Show. I am live with 𝗏𝗏 𝗖𝗍𝗂𝗏. Thank you for joining me once again. First time on the Jena Colbourne Show, but we have connected before on our morning show, Connected. So it's nice to have you back in the studio.
Thanks for having me. This is my favorite studio.
Oh, thank you.
Ever.
Endorsed by 𝗏𝗏. You should get a little stamp, hey?
Yes.
I'm so happy to have you on the show, 𝗏𝗏. Last time you were in, we really dove deep on, I guess it was like a small town politics talk. Like we talked about how in your book, which is fantastic, by the way, The Butcher Shop Girl, you really unveiled a lot of what happened while you were growing up, and you named a lot of names. And we talked about that kind of dynamic for you. So it's been a few months. A lot of people around town and around the world have read the book. How is the feedback going for you?
Well, so far so great. I'm continually and perpetually shocked. I find it's just so heartwarming that the messages that strangers will just send to you, you know, in the middle of the night, or I have no idea who these people are, and they're so warm, welcoming, encouraging, relate a piece that related to them, to me. There's nothing better than that feeling. I haven't had any negative feedback, like none that came to me directly. So I'm sure, you know, there's probably somebody out there who didn't care for it, but I don't know them.
Well, let's talk about like the family aspect, because we touched on that a little bit, yes. But you know, we've had a holiday come, and that's usually when you see or connect via Zoom, however you were doing it, family and friends. And are your family still like okay with the book, or have you received any kind of, why'd you write that from them?
Well, I guess maybe some of my older members of my family, they're still very supportive. But they kind of, I find it's a generational thing. Like our generation has willingness to tackle those topics. We are okay with vulnerability a little bit more than maybe their generation was. So sometimes I feel like I've had quite a few conversations with them about the why. Why would you do this? Why would you become so vulnerable? How could you do that? And at the end of these conversations, I noticed that they kind of admire that too, and maybe wish that they could be a little bit more like that as well.
Do you consider yourself a brave person?
Kinda. No, not really, but I guess brave just in essence of saying what I want to say, and hoping that it's free from recourse, but it's not. That's not the reality. As we know, we can say what we want to say, but it's not free of consequence. So I guess I just try to be more tactful, I guess, more than anything, but I feel like, no, not really braver than anybody else. I feel maybe it's because I'm in my 40s, and something happens to you when you're in your 40s. You kind of feel like you don't care as much anymore what people have to think about you, because what they think of you is none of your business.
I love that quote.
Yeah, it's awesome, right? It's kind of a catch-all for that. So
I use that a lot in my own life, but I find it interesting that you don't consider yourself brave when the first chapter opens up in one of the most brave moments of your life, I would say.
I think maybe it's because it's 20 years ago. That's another thing. The sheen of time that goes by really helps you to be able to say things because I've digested them, I've reconciled them, I've processed them. So I feel like it's okay to just say it as it is. And maybe that comes across as brave. That's kind. Thank you.
I think what's so wonderful about the Butcher Shop Girl is it's very unique in your journey. Like, it's not the typical small town job. Like, not a lot of small town girls go off and have huge adventures like you did.
Yes.
And I think whenever we come across a person who came from a small town and we know them and we grew up with them and we see they go for an atypical job, we're like, whoa, what is this? What are they doing? What's going on? And I don't think it's necessarily the profession you had chose that was so interesting, because it is, but it was just the fact that you stepped outside a comfort level. Was that a hard decision for you to make? Like, hey, I'm not going to be the small town girl. I'm not going to go into the family business of, say, the butcher shop or the farming. I'm going to do something completely different.
That's a really good question. Nobody has asked me that on book launch tour, so good on you. You came up with an original question. Amazing. Yes. Also, one of the reasons why you're my favorite interviewer. I wish I could just request you everywhere I'm going on book tour. I do. I would say if you've read the book, you'll see that it was more youth and a succession of events that kept unfolding. None of it was scripted. None of it was really a conscious decision to go in these directions, but more I took one small step in that direction, and then new consequences, new opportunities came to me, and I had to navigate them kind of on the fly as well. So I do talk about things like being in a Hells Angels clubhouse. I never planned on that, nor did I know how that worked, who these people are, anything about it. But then I found myself in those situations, and I would just kind of navigate them like a chameleon, I describe in my book. So my favorite part about the book is pulling back the curtain on those atypical lifestyles, people and places and settings that we don't often get to see. Not because maybe we don't seek them out, but just because, everybody's life is so unique. And I challenge anybody to put themselves back in their 19-year-old self and tell me with confidence that you knew exactly what you were doing, next week, the week after that. Sure, maybe you were in school. Sure, maybe you had a job. But did you really know who you are, how you fit in your environments, let alone how you fit in the world? So I feel like I'm no different than anybody else at 19, and it was just one foot in front of the other, and many of these instances were wild to me too. They really were. They really, looking back on it now, I couldn't imagine doing that all over again. I couldn't imagine.
I think a lot of people are left at the end of this book who don't know you, and they're going, oh, what's next in this adventure? Can we expect a follow-up to The Butcher Shop Girl?
That is something a lot of people want to know. A follow-up to The Butcher Shop Girl would be my life now and for the last 20 years. So The Butcher Shop Girl ends when I'm 21 and I'm almost 43. So I guess it would be another 20-year block to write about. And that is a very good story too, Jenna. There's a lot of feisty moments, anti-establishment, all of the Carmenisms that you might have grown to like in the first book. But that would involve my family, like my immediate family, and I don't know if they would want that yet. Maybe. They're pretty supportive and pretty hip like that, but I don't know. It's also kind of like asking somebody who just had a baby, like, when you're going to have another one.
Yes.
It does feel like a little bit like that as well, because, well, it's just such a lot of work. It took me 3 years to produce this. So I'm having a lot of fun on media tour and book launch tour, but after that, I want to take a nice long nap, like a nice big long break if I could.
Well, let's talk about your book launch tour, because you've been doing it quite differently as pandemic restrictions have not allowed you to go on a full-on tour. So you're missing out a little bit, but you're still able to do some. And we have a picture of you yesterday. You were at Indigo in West Edmonton Mall. And last time we met, we actually talked about this award here, and you have been named a finalist for the Clarion Forward Award, and that's basically like indie writers, like new on the scene writers, and you've now been named a finalist.
Yes, I'm so amazed. So the last time I was on your show, I had the notification that I was a nominee, and now, from then to now, I've become a finalist. So out of 2,500 books that are submitted rated by publishers and by literary critics. I made a top 50, top 55 cut in a variety of categories, but this one made the finalist status in performing arts category, so I'm just so thrilled to be a finalist. I just feel like in June, win, lose, or draw, I'm just happy to make it to this point with the Forward Reviews Indies program. Like it's got some clout in North America. It's really hard for indie authors to break out, especially as you mentioned with the pandemic. Traditional book signings, on location meeting, your readership is just gone to us. So I had to get creative. I've produced an audio book as well that just launched last week, and it has a couple of fun collaborators too. My primary narrator is Claire Duncan, who's a New York City, Canadian-born Broadway actress. So you got to think about their world too, is highly compromised. There's nobody going into a Broadway show right now or a theater. So there's some silver linings as well with the pandemic and being an author, is that I have access to some really great talent because they might not be so busy as they typically would be. So Claire's done a lot of voiceover work for Nickelodeon, 3M brands, Scott Towel brands, and she was available to me. So I was like, yoink, I'm going to cinch her down. So we spent 4 months working with her, and then we have a secret, not secret guest anymore. It was a secret last time I was on your show. But Brett Kissel reads the fun chapter quote openers in my book. So Claire narrates the whole book, because she's got a perfect young Carmen voice. This book is a coming of age story, and I've got an old voice now, so a lot of people say, why didn't you do your own voice work? I'm like, yeah, no.
I think you could have pulled it off, Karen.
I don't know. I feel like I hear my voice. I think you had a little comment about that a couple weeks ago. Like, it's still like nails on a chalkboard when you hear your own voice.
I think that's one of the hardest things to overcome is your own voice. It's like you listen to it all day in your head. You got this. But Claire is fantastic in the audiobook. Have you listened to the whole audiobook?
I did, yeah. I finally got it all listened to. It's another process too, like writing the book with rounds and rounds of editing. So she'd send me chapters at a time to listen to and just make sure that pronunciation was accurate, because she's now been living in the United States for 10 years. She doesn't necessarily know how to pronounce the Southern Alberta Institute of Technology. Like,
yes.
We call it SAIT, but that's like SAIT to her, right? SAT.
Yeah, we need to make sure her about is just the right amount of boot.
That's exactly it.
I wanted to talk about the audiobook because we have something really exciting. So if you're watching right now, this is exclusive for anyone watching right now. Carmen is generous enough, I believe you. How many copies did you say? I want to get 10. This right. That's what I thought. I didn't want to announce 10
copies of the audiobook for free to...
Well, to anyone watching right now, I'm going to actually give you the email address. So the first 10 people to send an email to this address are going to get a free copy of the audiobook. If you don't make the cut, it's okay. It's available on Audible, but it's inquire@thebutchershopgirl.com. So the first 10 people to send in, just say you saw it on the Jena Colbourne show, you're super excited for that Audible version. And I gotta say, I love getting in the car, turning on a good audiobook and just going for a drive wherever I may be going and like really just kind of escaping. It's so nice.
I'm getting into it. I wasn't an Audible person before, but wow, it is nice. I've obviously, with my process, gotten comfortable with that. I don't travel as much. You're all over the place. Like you put a lot of kilometers on a vehicle to cover the news in all of our areas. But I don't often get the chance to spend hours in a vehicle. So I've just kind of started putting one AirPod in and still doing other tasks around the house. And that's working quite nicely. I think I like that. I think I'm going to keep doing things like that.
Well, Carmen, you're a mom now. Your son is graduating this year.
Yes, just like your daughter as
well. Yes, they actually are in the same grade. And I wanted to ask if he came home and said, hey, Mom, school's done in June. I'm just going to get on the old motorcycle and bum around the country, see what happens next. How would you feel?
Well, Tyler is quite a free spirit. I wouldn't be surprised if he said that, because he is a motocross kid, so he doesn't have his bike license yet, but I know that's one of his to-do things, and probably this year he'll go down that road. But yeah, it's hard to say. We don't know if they're going to have an in-campus experience with post-secondary, and he is accepted to the University of Alberta for political science.
Oh, wow.
So I'm still trying to, regardless if they can go into university or not,
Yeah.
I think it's great that he and a few pals still maybe get an apartment in the city, still get that big city experience, even if they have to log on to their classes every day. You know, 3, 4 o'clock when you're done for the day, you can at least still see the city, and you could still get out to the parks and whatever happens to be open for the week, you know. So I find with COVID obviously affects everything, and it steals a lot of people's joy, but we don't have to let it. We can work around it. So that's the message I'm trying to share with him and his friends, is that find a way to still meet your goals with a little bit of freedom and spread your wings a bit. So I probably wouldn't be good with him taking a year off to hit cross Canada or just mess it around, right? Like, I feel like you've got some momentum, keep going, because their perception of time is so different than ours. They think 4 years is like, oh my gosh, 4 years. But for us, it's like that, right? And then pretty soon you have a degree. And then pretty soon you're ready to move on to the next step. So he's got his eye on something like law and use his poli-science degree as maybe a prereq for that. So he's just, yeah, free spirit. So I could see he'd want to do that, but I might not let him.
And it's quite funny, considering your own like path that you took, where there's points in the book where you speak of your parents being like, no, don't quit that job, stay there, and you
I'm like, nah.
rebelled against it.
Yeah, he's such a good kid like that compared to me in that regard. I think what was missing for me back then that's different now is that I struggled to have a solid relationship with each of my parents. So I talk about my hard relationship with my mother growing up, and then I show up at like 14, 15 on my dad's doorstep, as you'll read in the book. And I'm already a pretty wild child at that point, and he's just starting to get to know me too. So I can imagine that was quite jarring for him, that was, he never really had a chance to be a present dad. And then all of a sudden you get this wild child show up at 15 and you're trying to wrangle that in. So before this book was published, I had a real good sit down with my dad, whom I'm very close to. And I laid it all out for him and gave him the option to read it. And he's like, you know, he was just so accepting, so wonderful, so supportive, and he just really gets me. And he told me that he felt that he got me then and he gets me now. And he's there for me no matter what. And it could totally bring a tear to my eye talking about how wonderful that was to hear. And I cared to manage what this book was going to be like for him. So he's just an amazing person. But back then, I didn't quite have that strong relationship with either of them. So there was an element of respect there missing. I was missing respect for them. I recognize that now because I'm older and I have my own children that are older as well. But I feel like I broke that cycle as a mom. And with my own kids, I'm very close with them, whether they like it or not. Like, I'm in there. I am that mom that's waking them up with pots and pans or scaring them around the corner, or just there if they want to unload their heavy lives. I've seen this year that this pandemic is so heavy for them, and they're actually just handling it so well, but maybe a little too well. Like, you don't have to bottle up what you're feeling. You can just lay it out. If you feel frustrated, you can scream in your pillow. You can react and project onto me if you want. I'm a safe space for you. I will hold that bucket for you, and you don't have to do it alone. So yeah, my childhood and growing up journey was totally different than theirs, and I'm proud of that, and I'm really proud of them.
Last time you were on the show, we did speak of your mom because, to put it quite bluntly, you put out, you didn't have the best relationship with her. And at the time, you said you had spoke with your mom. How's your relationship a few months later, and she's seen the success of the book and the attention it's getting?
She as well, too, is a very supportive person. She's not happy with some of the things that were shared, but she is as well respectful, and she is quite a guided by truth individual, which I find very inspiring for me to live more that way. It's good, and she's slowly getting there, and I'm really proud of her for that. It's hard. It's not something that's easy for her, and I want to protect her while still being honest with my story. So the fact that she is receptive, understanding, really means a lot to me, and I'm very proud of her. Because that ties into what I was just speaking about earlier, about their generation versus our generation. They don't understand maybe some of the movements that are going on right now, or they struggle to. Why is everybody just so open and honest? Why is mental health such a hot focus of headlines? And these are the reasons why, because our generation, coming off of that 80s mom generation, that can do anything, they can have 10 kids and they can still have a career, well, it's been identified that there are cracks that form when you are trying to do it all. And in the 80s, 90s, when we were raised, I find that moms were just trying their best. They finally had this new acceptability to head out into the workforce and be moms, but yet they were kind of our first trailblazer generation. And we were the ones that got to see through observation maybe the benefits and the not so beneficial elements that come to an upbringing with that. So I'm onto a theory, but I think it's that. I think it's the generational gap. So we're kind of Gen X, Zennial, kind of depending if you were born before, you know, that 1978 to 1983 is kind of that
In
split
between.
Zennial generation, right? You're not really Gen X and you're not really a millennial. So I find it's us in there that are like, hey, we've got some things to say about what it was like to grow up in a high divorce rate, in single families, and you know, all the challenges that come with that. So
what I found very full circle about your relationship with your mom and what you speak of is, on one hand, you might show her flaws, but you always spoke or wrote very proudly of her work ethic and
yeah, she taught me a lot.
The command she demanded when she was at work, and people listened to her, and you were proud of that.
She was a trailblazer like that. Looking back now, you don't realize what's unique when it's in front of you. So I even talk about the fiscal differences between one side of my family versus the other. And they're both in agriculture, but they're both experiencing it completely differently. My mom was very much a person who, as a full-time working mother, who had a male-dominated business, and just busting all of those ceilings right in front of me when I was a young girl. And I didn't even know that. I didn't even know the things that she was tackling. I don't know if she did either, but she was always very proud to be a woman in business. And in this community, she ran a business for, I think, almost 25 years. And that's very hard work. I'm so proud of that. It really shaped me in my own work ethic. I think you'll see in the book too, that I went so far the other way when it came to capitalism and becoming a mercenary. And I didn't really like those parts of my personality. I didn't learn that from her. I learned how to be assertive, but I think I took that and just really ran to the other end of the spectrum with it. Almost to, you know, as I describe as a take no prisoners kind of vibe. So I felt I needed to kind of be that way to survive. It was a tough, protective outer shell that helped me relate to my world. And some of these worlds that I was in, as you'll read in the book, are very dangerous. So they were beneficial too in certain instances. It's kind of, it's not something that's good. It's not something that's bad. It's everything in between. And I learned a lot of that from her.
Do you have any advice for the mavericks and misfits who are, you know, it's graduation season.
Yeah.
People are getting ready to fly the coop, if you will. Do you have some advice for the mavericks and misfits who are taking a different path and a different journey?
Yes, first of all, well done. That's great. Whenever you get to the end of something that you've worked hard for and you might not be sure where you want to go in the future, that's okay. I would love to tell them that it's okay. You can take a year off. You can find out what it is that you're interested in. And you can take a lot of time to do that until you're sure. And don't let the pressure of getting in that corporate chute, get a job, get an education, get working, pay your taxes. Hold on to that break as long as you can, because the world is so adult and so heavy coming up for you. So take your time and don't feel any pressure. And if you do feel pressure, let it go. Just let it go.
I try to tell my kids, you're only a kid for 18
Yeah,
years. So
yeah.
take advantage of being a
Yes.
kid. Don't try to grow up too fast.
Yes, absolutely. And I find kids nowadays are just really great. Maybe that's a product of our wonderful educational system in Canada, but they are cautious. They're not so throw all caution to the wind like our generation was. Like, we were in some pretty dangerous situations with driving and drinking back 20 years ago. They don't do things like that anymore, and I just really applaud that. That's just really nice to see.
Well, once again, you can score yourself a free copy of the audio version. First 10 people who write in to info@thebutchershopgirl.com are going to get that. Just say you saw it on the Jena Colbourne show.
Yeah.
And today, for anyone who's been commenting along, if you commented, if you shared, if you reacted to this interview, well, you're going to be entered to win one of 3 copies of The Butcher Shop Girl right here. Carmen, I got to thank you again for coming on the show. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me. I can't wait to watch the rest of the segment today. Thank you.
We'll be right back on the Jena Colbourne show with 𝗵𝗂 𝗖𝗵𝗲.
Muse Inspired in Cold Lake is not your average clothing store. You'll discover unique brands like 𝗵𝗿, 𝗵𝗵𝗄, Camp, Dex, Spiritual Gangster, and more. Accessorize your outfit with shoes, bags, outerwear, and jewelry. Find one-of-a-kind gift ideas and don't miss out on their monthly sip and shop. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram to get inspired. Muse Inspired in Cold Lake and online 𝗬𝗂𝗵𝗂𝗑𝗫boutique.com.
Welcome back to the Jena Colbourne show, and thank you again to Carmen 𝗖𝗿𝗄𝗃 for joining us today. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have 𝗵𝗂 live in studio. And what's fun is I did no research because I wanted to hear it all fresh out of your mouth, Kim. I watch you on social media and I follow you and I love your stuff. And I'm like, I'm going to have to connect with Kim one day. Like, she's going to have to fill me in on everything you do. So that's what we're going to do today. You're going to fill me in.
Excellent.
Okay, so you are a life coach and you also deal heavily in mindset and heavily with like just energy, and yeah, let's get right into it. So tell me what you do and how I can benefit.
Okay, sounds great. Well, my company is called Inner Powered Leaders, and my company itself, the short of it is that I help women to embrace their inner feminine power so that they can become leaders of their life and leave overwhelm and burnout behind. And so my passion is mental health overall. I am an integrative mental health coach, and that's kind of where I started. I started from my own mental illness journey and healing, to wanting to help others heal, to then figuring out that women, and it's interesting with Carmen before talking, about her mom and being in a, when women weren't necessarily accepted in the male-dominated society, and just finding that a lot of women right now, we're burning out because we are trying to fit in to a male energy-dominated society. Now, that doesn't mean men. That just means that we both, men and women, have different energies. And throughout the last 50 years, women's feminine energy has been crushed. And it's like, no, it's only one way. And we try to fit into that one way, and we can't. And we just end up burning out and getting sick and being overwhelmed. And so my goal is to help kick that overwhelm and burnout away and to help women become strong leaders in their life.
Well, I wanted to talk on that because I myself have always worked in a more male-dominated industry. Media, very male-dominated. Prior to this, and you might think, Jena, you're the boss. How is this male-dominated? But the industry itself.
Yeah.
I deal with a lot of situations where it's an old boys club, where you're walking in as, like, let's say a reporter and it's an old boys club, or in your job. I actually used to work for a transportation company. I worked on a dock. And so my whole life, I feel, was very, like my whole career, if you will, was very male-oriented. And I would snuff out that feminine energy as if it was a weakness and take on that masculinity.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we've been taught, is that the feminine energy is weak. Mm-hmm. And it's not, which is what I'm trying to teach, is that it's actually a power. And if we start looking, and if we want to look at massive male leaders who have made massive change, like, the Dalai Lama or Nelson Mandela, those men embody feminine energy, the compassion, the connection. And so for me, it's natural in us women. And so I want to teach women how to embrace that and let it out. And then we can encourage our male counterparts to also embrace that, because we need both to be able to be healthy and to be able to be really strong leaders.
Well, you just launched a brand new website, and it's going to help with all of this, and it's Women Changemakers.
Yes, female
changemakers,
yep.
Sorry, yeah.
So the website is 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 and then within that is my brand new membership site. And so within that membership site, because of COVID, I used to do lots of talking and teaching and workshops, and now we're online. And so you can subscribe and get all of my courses that I've taught. You can get meditations, you can get quick wins on leadership, there's expert guests, plus I do weekly coaching, and we do group coaching, sharing, supporting. There's a community forum so that all of us like-minded women can work together, support each other, help each other when we're down a bit. And then there's also a mastermind within that if anyone wants even to go deeper and really do more one-on-one work.
Well, let's talk about the feminine energy. So I come to you as a client and I'm like, okay, I want to tap into this a little bit. What are some traits or some exercises, maybe even if you're able to share a little bit, that you might say, hey, this will help you kind of be empowered with your own femininity?
Yeah, for sure. So I kind of have what I call my power process. And so it starts with our head, self-leadership and self-awareness. So we have to be able to become aware of what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and how we're acting. Because a lot of times we're just reacting in life, right? And so the first thing is to slow down our brain, and so that we can pause. And as women, that's really hard for us. And so learning mindfulness, which all that is being present in the moment. Learning breathing exercises, maybe just 1 minute a day. Like, a lot of these things aren't hard at all, but it's just taking the time to implement them. So we're slowing down our mind, becoming more mindful, and then from there we go to our heart, because now we have this pause. Now we can choose, am I going to choose compassion? Am I going to choose to listen to my intuition, which is a massive feminine energy trait? Am I going to choose connection, which is another one? Am I going to choose to listen to what my emotions are telling me and not push them down to the bottom? And then from there, we can take action with our hands. And we choose, what do I have control over in this moment? And then what will I choose to move forward? So it's based on your head, your heart, and your hands.
Kim, you used to be a teacher. You're a teacher by trade.
Yes.
And it's so courageous, and we were talking about courage today. So courageous of you to step out of this, you get a paycheck, you get set hours, you get set vacations, it's very secure, and then to step out and be like, no, I'm going to try something different. What led you to make that life transition?
Yeah, definitely my mental health journey. And I actually listened to my intuition, and it just said to me one day that the reason I've had to go through what I have with my mental health journey is so that I can help others heal. And that just shifted. And so, yeah, it doesn't always make sense. And the thing is, we always go to our head and we don't always listen to our heart. And my heart was just saying, you have to do this. You have to move forward. And my husband has been so supportive, but when it was all happening, he was just like, it seems odd that, you're quitting a full-time job and in the middle of a recession. And I'm like, I know, but it's just what I need to do. And I think a lot of times we don't listen to that. And then that's when we start resenting our jobs. That's when we start getting sick, when we start getting really grumpy. And so it has been scary. And there have been times, of course, where I'm like, what the heck am I doing?
Well, earlier on the show when we were talking with Carmen, we were discussing how in the 80s we were shown, hey, wait a minute, women can have it all. They can have the kids, they can have the career, and then we're realizing these cracks, as she put it. Do you feel like we're filling the cracks better, or maybe the cracks aren't happening through tapping into our natural feminine energy?
I think we're just at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's still cracks, unfortunately. But I just feel like the more we talk about it, which we've said before, we talk about mental health. We talk about vulnerability. We talk about how hard it is to just be a woman, being a parent, running a business, working. And so I think that it's just continuing to talk and support and be honest. Because as soon as we say, oh, I felt this way, someone else is like, oh, me too, right? And so those cracks, I feel like, are getting smaller. We have a lot of work to do, but I feel like we're just at the very beginning, which is really exciting because we're giving women the opportunity now to say, hey, you are worth it, and here are some ways to do it to help you so that you can become this strong leader and really embrace your feminine energy.
Well, it's been a very difficult time. We're coming off in the middle of a recession, then we're hit with a pandemic, and I think so much of that weight has been carried by women. And have you seen like an increased demand for your courses, or people even withdrawing, like doing the opposite and being more afraid to come to you?
Yeah, I definitely would say that I have been busy. People have, and I mean, it's busy because a lot of times people are looking for places, but maybe don't necessarily also have the money, right? And so I found though that my following, like I have a free Facebook page, which again is named Female Changemakers. And a lot of people are really, joining forces there just to look for that connection, which is the biggest part of COVID and the mental health dynamic right now is just, we're missing this face-to-face connection, right?
And I strongly feel a lot of people either went to ask for help or they went the opposite direction and they sheltered in place.
Yes.
And they hid. And I love seeing businesses that like yours that are reaching out to people where they're at rather than expecting them to come to you. So I love the idea of this new membership. And I wanted to talk about like the group setting behind it, because you have different groups where people can chat with one another. What does that look like? Is it like driven by you and topics by you, or is it just a place where people are connecting with one another?
Yeah, so the community forum itself, I will ask daily questions, but other than that, women can talk amongst themselves. Someone might bring a specific question and then all of us together can give, our input. And then within the weekly coaching sessions, when we all get on Zoom together and we can see each other's faces, then I will direct some of that. But again, it's bringing in your story and then all of us working together to support and bring ideas. So I am more of, I call myself the guidess, kind of the person that will guide and support, but it is all about the group dynamic and the group energy and knowing that you're not alone and then sharing all of our own stories.
Who's welcome to join? Is this like, are you looking for women who are out in the workforce or professionals, or is this like women of any walks of life, like where they come from?
Yeah, I just always say women who really feel they want to step up in their leadership in their life. So that might be at a job, or maybe it's just at home and they're like, I'm just feeling down and I need to get some confidence, or maybe I want to step up onto a community board. So anyone, I always say, who's ready to maybe step forward, high achievers, because a lot of times we have to take action is the thing. So as long as you are ready to take action to feel better and stronger, then it's for you.
Well, where can we find you, Kim? Where can we get signed up?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to innerpoweredleaders.com.
Awesome. So head on over to Kim's website. You can follow her on social media. I do. I find it very just a fun and safe environment, and it often sparks my own creativity when I see what you're posting. I'm like, ooh, I never thought of that. Okay, let's go. So I want to thank you for sparking my own creativity, and I'm looking forward to learning more about you, Kim. I'm going to go join the membership and see what I can gain out of it.
Awesome. Thanks, Jena.
Thank you so much for coming on the Jena Colbourne Show. Our business spotlight is sponsored by Project Gazelle. You can check them out at projectgazelle.ca.
𝗖𝗵𝗲 Pharmacy is proud to be celebrating 50 years in the community of Bonnyville. And we're even more proud to help grow the community through our Local Supporting Local initiative. Come into 𝗖𝗵𝗲's and you'll find a vast selection of local products made right here in the Lakeland region. We have unique gifts and specialty items, along with everything you'd expect to find at your local pharmacy. At 𝗬𝗄𝗄𝗃, you'll get that small town service with a smile. Compassionate local pharmacists who are dedicated to the community's health and wellness. 𝗬𝗄𝗄 Pharmacy offers the Simple program, a brand which synchronizes your medications with unique packaging designed to make your life and your medication simple. While you're shopping, be sure to grab a specialty coffee from our 1929 coffee bar, stocked full with drinks, soups, sandwiches, and more. Celebrate 50 years with 𝗬𝗄𝗄's, local supporting local.
Welcome back to the Jena Colbourne Show. I am so excited this afternoon to be joined by Wendy with Project 𝗬𝗃, and super excited for the launch of the new Project 𝗬𝗃 Marketplace. So Wendy, I'm going to let you take it from there. Tell us about Marketplace and how it's going to help just loads of female entrepreneurs.
Sure. Thanks, Jenna. Thanks for having us back again in the quest to support female entrepreneurs. We are really excited about Project 𝗬𝗃 and our marketplace. So when we were designing the marketplace, we knew that a lot of female entrepreneurs have multiple gigs that they're doing, and we really wanted to promote the entrepreneur themselves. So our marketplace is set up a little bit differently than other online marketplaces, in that it's actually an opportunity to get to know the person who's behind the goods and the products and the services, as well as actually do some interaction with from a business sense. So we have consultants, artists, all kinds of different people who are producing, goods and crafts. And one of the things that we found out when we were designing the marketplace was that most female entrepreneurs don't have time to add another thing onto their plate, so to speak. And so what we did with this marketplace was we made it as easy as possible for them to get onto and to maintain. So we think that it's ready for business now, and we're excited to have some entrepreneurs really jump on board.
So this is really like an online platform for someone who has a business, and maybe you don't have your own website, or maybe you have your own website, but you also want to reach a broader audience and get more people to know about you.
Actually, Jenna, the great thing about our 𝗬𝗃.ca is that it's twofold. So it could be for somebody who already has an Etsy site or a Shopify site, and they want to link to it, so they don't have to create two sites, which is a major win for entrepreneurs. But it's also for the person who, is creating beautiful pottery, for example, but they've never, had the time to create their own website and that sort of thing. They're maybe just selling via friends and family or on Facebook. Project 𝗬𝗃's marketplace, the 𝗬𝗃.ca, is for that person too, because we can actually get them online and selling within a couple of days.
So you also said it was for consultants as well. So you don't have to have like physical products to be part of this marketplace. You could also offer services.
Yeah, when we were doing our research, we found that a lot of women are, they're doing some really magnificent things when it comes to services. And it's, often just through their own website that you can access those services. But on our marketplace, it's actually set up like an online shopping mall. This was Glennis's vision. And so when you go onto the 𝗬𝗃.ca, it's like you're walking into a mall and you see this services site, and you see food and drink, and you see, crafts, and you see furniture and all of these different areas, and you click on that and you are introduced to what we hope are hundreds of entrepreneurs. And so you can absolutely be a consultant or a service provider. We want our site to be really eclectic, just like our community of female entrepreneurs is with Project 𝗬𝗃. And so we didn't want to leave anybody out, and we wanted to share their talents with the world, basically.
Well, Project 𝗬𝗃, of course, is for female entrepreneurs, and it helps connect you with different mentors, different tools. There's seminars, there's networking engagement sessions as well. And this is just another layer of help that's available to female entrepreneurs. And I know the biggest question in everyone's mind is, this sounds cool, it's a nice marketplace, it sounds like you've made it easy, but what's it going to cost me?
So that's the absolute best thing about our marketplace, is that it was made possible through an amazing grant that was received through the Women's Entrepreneurship Strategy. and implemented by Community Futures Network across Alberta and Saskatchewan. And so to get onto the Project 𝗲𝗄𝗃 marketplace is at no cost. And so, this is something else that I think really differentiates us from, one of the things that inhibits our gazelles into moving forward and launching their entrepreneurial ventures is that there's such a high cost to it. What we can offer entrepreneurs is we can get them on board at no cost because of our amazing grant. Should they need a Shopify site down the road, there's a Shopify cost, but it's minimal per month. And we hope that all of the revenue that they're generating because of being online would cover off the minimal cost for that.
So if someone's not already a member of Project 𝗲𝗄𝗃, how can they get signed up for Project 𝗲𝗄𝗃 and become a part of this really amazing community?
So one of the easiest ways is to contact their local community futures. And so we have over 17 community futures that are partners in this venture. They can go on to 𝗀𝗲𝗄𝗃 and just click on the join now, and they will be directed to us, and we will get them started. There's only one way into the 𝗀𝗲𝗄𝗃, and that's by being a client of Project 𝗲𝗄𝗃, but we make that as seamless as possible for them.
I just wanted to add that I am a proud member of Project 𝗲𝗄𝗃. It's helped me in enormous ways, and I'm so happy to have you guys on as a sponsor of the Jena Colbourne Show and to be able to highlight not just what Project 𝗲𝗄𝗃 does, but also the female entrepreneurs that are part of Project 𝗲𝗄𝗃.
And I'll be giving you an email after this so that we get you loaded onto the 𝗀𝗲𝗄𝗃.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Wendy, and have yourself a fabulous afternoon.
Thanks, Jena. You too.
I want to thank my guests today, 𝗵𝗵𝗃. By the way, it's inquire@thebutchershopgirl.com. You can head over there, send them an email, let them know you saw it on the Jena Colbourne Show, and they will send you a free copy of the audiobook. So that's really cool stuff. Do not miss out on that. The first 10 people who email inquire@thebutchershopgirl.com will get that. Anyone who's commented along, hit that share button, or interacted in any way is going to be entered to win a hard copy of the book. So make sure you interact with it, and you could score yourself a book. It's that simple. And I'm going to leave this contest open until Friday, this upcoming Friday, so you'll have a little bit of time to get in on it. I also want to thank 𝗵𝗃 for coming on, and I loved learning more about her business, Inner-Powered Leaders. So cool. Make sure you give her a follow on social media. And of course, Wendy with Project 𝗲𝗄𝗃 Marketplace is now open. So whether you're online already or you need help getting online, Project 𝗲𝗄𝗃 can help you female entrepreneurs out. Go give them a follow. Join the community. It's absolutely free, and the time commitment is really up to you, but it's just invaluable, the amount of resources they have to give back to the community of female entrepreneurs. Thanks for joining me on the Jena Colbourne Show. We are live every Wednesday at 2 o'clock, and I have to thank Chris Lapointe for being my producer today. Now you've been connected.